Hello everybody and welcome back to another ARC review. This was an ARC that I actually won via a giveaway on Goodreads and I was so excited to get it. That ARC is A Creature of Moonlight by Rebecca Hahn. This is a middle grade / young adult fantasy novel. I'm going to push it more towards middle grade because that's sort of what it reminded me of. So this ARC and the entire giveaway on Goodreads piqued my interest because it mentioned one of my favourite books I read in 2013, and that was Seraphina by Rachel Hartman. It said if you're a huge fan of Seraphina, you're going to end up being a big fan of A Creature of Moonlight. I said, I loved Seraphina. But seriously, if you're a fan of fantasy, smart female protagonists, and dragons, you need to read Seraphina. Creature of Moonlight has a female protagonist, and it said it involved dragons. You cannot tell by the little dragon on the cover, and so I was like, heck yeah, I'm entering this giveaway. When I won it, I was like, heck yeah, I'm reading it the moment it comes in. So it was a very quick read. I know that the completed hardcover is going to be 320 pages. Mine was just a hair over 300 as an ARC, and I cannot justify this length. Creature of Moonlight is the story of Marni, who is the rightful heir to the throne of her unnamed kingdom. And in this kingdom, the forest moves. It's been encroaching in upon the land and been scaring a lot of people because there's things that live in the forest. Nothing like super duper monsters or anything, but you have phoenixes and griffins and spirits and fae and fairies and as the forest moves in, keeps taking over more land, more and more people lose their homes, they lose where they live, and girls will end up disappearing into the forest. Girls are lured into the forest and whisked away. It's a common trope in kind of fairy, mythic fantasy. Marni lives with her grandfather and he's known as the flower man, she's known as the flower girl, because their little house, the forest just doesn't encroach upon the house and they grow all the flowers, and obviously they have the most beautiful flowers in all the land. It's never really explained. This is going to be a common theme, so get ready to hear it's never really explained a lot. Marni's uncle is the king, and he is king because her grandfather abdicated the throne basically after her uncle killed her mother, I'm pretty sure right in front of Marni, when she was like a little wee thing. She has no father, so she's what's known as a dragon child, because it's an old story or myth, tale, that a dragon one day whisked away a maiden and she came back with a baby. So the idea is whenever your mother sort of vanishes and comes back with a child and there's no father, you're known as a dragon daughter. Or he's known as a dragon father. It's something like that. So she's a dragon child, and when her grandfather dies, Marni goes to her uncle's court and says, I have nowhere to go, I need to live here. So her uncle takes her in, even though he clearly hates her. The entire second third of the novel, it's divided quite literally into part 1, part 2, and part 3, is spent with Marni in court, and she's a 16-year-old girl at court, and tons of lords want to marry her, and she keeps refusing them. And there's one called the Lord of Untitled, and he frequently courts her, and that's doesn't really go anywhere. Even though they try to make it a plot point, it's never really explained. And she wants vengeance on the king. Kind of saw that coming. The king ends up throwing her in prison. There's an escape. She runs away to the woods. And then we finally meet the dragon. So you're on page, for me, 205 of like 313. That's when the dragon enters. Because it doesn't even enter then. The dragon enters on page 219. As I said, my copy is 313 pages. I have a dragon for less than 100 pages. And even then, he's almost unimportant. This is frustrating because if you're going to pitch this to me as involving dragons and being like Seraphina, dragons are in Seraphina from like page 1. It's a major plot point. The whole point is that there's dragons in the world of Seraphina, and in Creature of Moonlight, he's like irrelevant. It almost felt like I'd been deceived when I picked up this book. Why even bother with the dragon on the cover? Like, why even call this A Creature of Moonlight? One of the biggest things I'm going to harp on is the length. I said initially that the hardcover is going to be 320 pages and I can't justify the length. I can't justify the length because there's simultaneously too much and too little. You need to either cut about 100 pages or add about 100 pages. Now, to be fair, this is an arc, it isn't uncorrected proof. I'm sure changes will be made, and I really hope they are, because this book frustrated me when I read it. Creature of Moonlight kind of feels like it was a short story that got extended. That's a problem, because a short story is a short story. A novel is a novel. Hell, you could have turned this into a novella and it would have been really great. But as a novel, there's too much that goes absolutely nowhere and was just kind of thrown in, I think, to extend the length. And there's not enough digging deep. I do not mind when books pause their plot and give you all these passages where the plot isn't necessarily going anywhere. But that's because the novel, and especially in fantasy novels, it's doing kind of one or both of two things. World building, character development. There are a lot of passages in Creature of Moonlight, like the entire second third, where nothing happens. Plot threads that aren't even really plot threads go nowhere. I have neither development nor world building. So here's the thing. You either need to add 100 plus more pages to give me a lot of character depth and world building and just development and really give me a story, or you need to cut a whole bunch of this. And honestly, this could have been a collection of short stories, a collection of like 2 novellas or something, because there's some parts of this that are really lovely. Each part, so for example this is part 3, is opened by little tales about what a dragon is supposed to be, and I'm just going to read you an example. In this story, the dragon was a man. Don't ask me how that works, but he was a man. He came riding up on a great black horse as a girl was collecting berries and roots and such in a basket to bring back to her ailing mother and 4 younger siblings. This was back when the woods were everywhere, and one of the girl's little sisters was just old enough to be playing about outdoors, and the girl had noticed how the fairies and spirits swooped around more when her sister was nearby. So you have little bits like that, and I honestly liked those little interjections of the stories, a little bit of prose, because it was really lovely prose. It made me think of Catherine Valente's Fairyland series. And honestly, as I said, I almost wish Creature of Moonlight had been a collection of little short stories like that, just little vignettes. I think it would have been really clever and really great. And I almost feel, again, that this book was born out of a vignette like that, and sort of extended, but not extended well enough. At the end of the day, Creature of Moonlight feels, and just to preface, this is a word I hate to use because I almost feel like I don't have the clout to use it, because I'm by no means able to write a novel. Amateurish and a bit like a first draft. I really wish this would go through another round of edits or something and either completely change its format or add more, because I just found this book lacking. Wasn't feeling it. But that's all from me tonight, you guys. So until next time, cheers.